the loan system. I don't like it. I think it stinks. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of Back 10. I'm your host Kyle Amor, and this week I'm joined by Back 10 regulars Paul Cook and all-out rugby league journalist Josh McAllister. Well, before we dive into this week's episode, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. In the comments section, we ask you each and every week to swipe to the left and hit that hype button up to 3 times a week. Those subscriptions, guys, they really are so important to us, and we're so grateful for you to do that. So make sure you tell everybody to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything across the world of rugby league. Lads, welcome along once again.
Thanks, Kyle. Pleasure to be here.
Well, there is a couple of semi-finals, isn't there, that we're going to talk about in a bit more detail later on. But first of all, we'll visit the week that was just gone by in round 10. Was it round 10? Yeah, round 10? Yeah. Round 10 of the Betfred Super League. We'll start where it all began on Thursday night, lads. Hull KRV Castleford. Discuss very briefly.
Yeah, but normal service resumed for Hull KR, isn't it? I think we expected a lull, or I certainly did after the World Club Challenge or during the World Club Challenge. Off to Vegas, hammered in Vegas, and then since then it's normal service for Hull KR. Playing really well, attacking really well, looked strong defensively. 1 try conceded late on. And for Castleford, I think Ryan Carr's pulling his hair out a little bit. Certainly not playing great at all.
Brian Carney mentioned Josh right at the end there after Ryan Carr spoke. It looked like a man who's just ran out of things to say. Must be what does he do?
Well, there was a couple of moments, weren't there, in that game? Was it PLT at fullback, and then it was the winger that they both drop it, and then there was another occasion where they play the ball and there's no one there at 9 inside your own 10, and it's like, well, you know, you could do all the coaching you can in the week, but if your players are doing that, what can you do? And he looked almost broken during the game, and then after the post game, he was actually all right. He was better than he had been previously, despite the big defeat. I don't know what that was about, but yeah, just, you know, the silly errors that Castleford are doing, the coach killers.
Yeah, Cookie, you've been a coach, obviously, and Ryan Carr mentioned about how he was happier, even though it was another 50 points to the black and whites, 50 points then to the Robins. He spoke about how a couple of tries came on tackle 5 and a couple of those errors that Josh mentioned. Do you understand what he means by that? Because look, from an outsider looking in, 50 points is 50 points.
Yeah, I do, because you can't legislate for people dropping balls like they did in the backfield. I think it was McIntosh was one, wasn't there? And then there's PLT for another. I think 3 or 4 of the tries came on last play. Mm-hmm. So you defend a full set, you get to the last play, there's one job to secure the football on last play or make a tackle. They failed to do so. So there was a number of points in that where you think that you can defend that with better individuals. You know, and ultimately, if you're a Castleford player now, you're on notice, because ultimately they're not going to stand for these performances moving forward, and it's a long-term job. I feel for Ryan Carr, Chris Chester, the staff at Castleford, because there's some players there that shouldn't be there, and with all due respect, there's players that are playing in the Super League there that are making the same mistakes week in, week out. And unfortunately, the pool of players that we've got in the competition means you can't change. They've tried to bring in loan players. And Tom Nicholson-Watton played at the weekend from Leeds. They've brought in other players on loan. So, yeah, you've got players there that Ryan's trying to make a difference with other Super League players. And still the players that are at the club and contracted are making the same errors. We've seen players from the Castleford's squad of players dropped, sent out on loan. So they've got to book their IDs up. If you're a squad member at Castleford that's contracts up at the end of the year, then you must be really worried about what's going to happen to you next year, because if you're one of them players making the same mistakes week in, week out, you can't be at the club.
Yeah, well, look, just to play devil's advocate, we won't have time to go into it. We'll move on ahead. But, you know, look, you mentioned about some of the staff there, but some of the staff are the ones that brought that player pool in. So there has to be accountability, you know, maybe higher up than just the playing group at the moment.
Staff members also, Kyle, I think they'll be on notice, because if you're not going to be part of the solution, it tells you that you may be part of the problem. So you know, everybody at the club should be a little bit worried because of the performances, and also because moving forward, it's quite clear. Martin Jepson on here last week, Chris Chester, I've spoken to him. Ryan Carr, being as frustrated as he is, there's going to be some big changes.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 transfer cycles you sort of get till you need to start getting it right. Chris Chester obviously made the mid-season switch from Lee last year, so you're probably looking at 1.5 to 2. The next one is crucial for next season. That transfer market next season is crucial for Casford.
Well, let's move on from Thursday night to Friday night at Headingley Stadium. Leeds Rhinos, of course, sat first with the best attack of the competition up to date against Wakefield, who were 5th. Only 2 points separating them, though, so a huge game. Wakefield, of course, having the best defence at that stage. Let's start with the high shot. Lads, I'm really keen to get your thoughts on, should it have been more than a yellow?
I'm happy with the sin bin. I think there was mitigation in all of it. And so I'm satisfied that the sin bin was the right call. Now he has been charged since then with the grade C, which carried 5 points, but he's still under that threshold, so he's available
only
to play.
Just.
Yeah, only just. I think he's on 5 points.
0.25.
Yeah. So the next thing he gets is going to take him over that threshold. So it means he'll be free to play against, I think, Wigan after the Challenge Cup break. But I don't know how you feel on it, Paul, but I think for me, there was enough mitigation there to say sin bin was the correct call.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Brad Arthur was accepting of it too after the game. He felt a yellow card. I think for Darryl Powell, you can understand why he's upset by it, because it's forceful and he goes in, but I think he slips under it as well. So I'm okay with the yellow card. The grade C is an interesting one. It keeps him under the 6 point threshold for a ban. Next misdemeanor sees somebody else benefit, doesn't it, from a Mike Sevo poor timed or poorly executed tackle. So I'm okay with the yellow card. I'm okay and move on from it.
Listen, I'll be honest, I would have been okay if it was a red. I'm okay with it being a yellow, by the way, as well. But if it had been a red, I wouldn't have been sat there confused as to why it was. I agree that there is mitigation where he is falling, but he actually catches the ball jumping first. So he's falling, but it's not. I thought he was lucky anyways. But look, Sevo survives another day and he gets to play against Wigan, crucially for them. The weekend off that'll come for them, of course, with the semi-final of the Challenge Cup. But let's talk about another incident in that game as well. Cam Scott, charged.
For that head contact. Yeah.
From his hospital bed.
Yeah. Like... madness, isn't it? But look, rules are there. Rules are brought in it's to stop players, I suppose, tackling with their head, if that makes sense. I don't understand, Cookie, how a player would tackle on purpose with their head. But
I'm not sure I've ever played it and gone into a tackle where I've tried to run in with my head. It is the definition of insanity, that, isn't it? It's difficult because you want Cam Scott to move his head out of the way, but there's 2 other bodies either side of him, and then Palacio, who's carrying the football, gets him with a head-on-head contact. Yeah. You play devil. We spoke about this, but play devil's advocate that if Palacio gets knocked clean out, does Cam Scott get a red card on a stretcher? Or a yellow card on a stretcher? He ends up getting charged, and I think he's charged from being knocked out himself. I beg any person to tell me that a rugby league player goes in to be knocked out or to try and tackle with the head. And with all due respect, when you go swimming, you get wet, and when you make an omelette, you break an egg, and when you play rugby league, you get head contact in whichever way, and that's accidental, isn't it? There's 2 other players either side. Unfortunately, you can't play rugby league without getting your head knocked. Whether you get knocked out there and then, like Cam Scott did, or whether there's delayed symptoms and you get pulled off by a doctor, it's a real area which is difficult to police. And we're talking about all of this because of the litigation in the sport on head contacts and dementia and what it contains in later life. But I beg to differ for anybody to tell me otherwise, that there's no head contact and unconscious and consciousness with rugby league. You just can't have it.
Well, yeah, when the news came out that he had been charged, Josh, you couldn't help think and feel that what the most of our supporters, listeners, what their reaction would be, because straight away I half laughed myself and thought, How ludicrous is that he's been charged? But rules are rules, mate, right?
Yeah, but if he wasn't charged, no one's going, well, why has Cam Scott not been charged here? It was head-on-head contact. You know, they've made a thing out of it when it didn't have to be. It shouldn't have been. We could have all moved on. Now, thankfully, Cam Scott posted the next day that he was taken from hospital and given all the clear, I think, at 1 a.m. Saturday morning. So that's the good news. But yeah, they've sort of made a story of it by charging him, and now we're discussing it. If he wasn't charged, we're not discussing this right now, are we?
But Cookie makes a great point. If Palliacia is knocked clean out, then it's a red card, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because it's head-on-head contact, which is the rule they brought in 2 years ago. It's just a strange rule, isn't it? Because as Paul says, it's going to happen. It's the game of rugby league. There's 3 players in that tackle. There's just it's going to happen. It's a contact sport, so it's a strange one, but. I'm not quite sure 100% we'll ever get down to.
Yeah, so when they're reviewing it and watching it back, right? Why hasn't he been given a red card then?
That's the interesting one, isn't it?
Listen, I want to see players on the field, right? I'm just sort of rationalised. If we're gonna have to a place where we're banning him or we're charging him rather, well, if you're Brad Arthur, you'd be going, well, that didn't help us on the night.
I do agree completely with you. I just think it's really difficult for the rules committee and the referees because we're trying to stop head-on-head contact and we're trying to limit that, whether that's the tackler, whether that's whatever it is in sport. Generally, the tackler, isn't it?
They have the luxury of watching that. He was out for 10 minutes. Now, in a normal incident, it would get referred and a referee could stop and intervene then, couldn't he?
Well, if Palliacia is out for 10 minutes, Cam Scott gets sent off, in my opinion.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So just because he's not.
Yeah, he's not sent off.
And he's been charged. Therefore, he should have been sent off in the game. I know that might sound absolutely bonkers, but I'm just thinking of it on the other side of it all. If we're going to go out there and charge him, well, Leeds Rhinos were hurt by him not being sent off.
And there is a bigger picture to that as well, because Ethan Havard, obviously, he's been given a one-match ban, but against Bradford, he wasn't given a yellow card. So if come Monday morning, he's done an offence that warrants a one-match ban. Well, why have no referee seen it and given him a yellow card during that match? So there is a bigger debate, a bigger picture to all of that there, I think, on Monday mornings when the match review panel comes together.
Well, controversy always surrounds the game, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's all about opinions and whatnot. But, look, let's talk about Ethan Havard. He will miss, of course, the game against St Helens. A huge blow for Wigan Warriors.
Yep, starting prop. He's a great player, Ethan Havard. But they do welcome back Sam Walters, who could fill back into that prop role, and Harry Smith. So that's 2 huge boosts there. They can leave Liam Farrell and Junior Sember in the back row. George Marsden made his debut, the youngest halfback combination in 41 years for Wigan, with Jack Farrimond and George Marsden at 37. And he was great on debut. He looked composed, professional. He had a nice cut-out pass that led to, I think, Wigan's 4th try, linking up with Noah Hodkinson. I think there was 10 academy products in that team. Wigan's academy system is just. I think you said before we come on air, 20% of Super Leagues come through Wigan. I mean, it's just brilliant, isn't it? And he's the next superstar that's coming through.
I think it's a lesson for all the other clubs, mate, that with 20% of the players that have come through Wigan's academy playing in Super League today, that if you neglect your academy, do it at your peril. It'll cost you at the top end of your salary cap because you have to bring in quality players. And with all due respect, local players stay more loyal. I say that with a bit of tongue in cheek.
And they tend to play for less money.
Exactly that. When you look at the Leeds dynasty, they stayed for less money. I was at a club at Hull FC where players stayed for less money and they could have gone elsewhere.
Creature comforts, you're happy at home, aren't you?
So, neglect your academy at your peril for me. I think Wigan have shown the way and they have been successful because of a core group of an academy players come through that have ended up going on to win trophies, sprinkled with your Bevan French, Jay Fields and Adam Kieran's and so often, players like them that come in along with good English imports as well that they've brought over. So that they've had bring in. So. Yeah, I think they're a fantastic club and a lesson to everybody. I think Saints have got a little bit of that coming through, and there's probably shoots of other clubs, maybe at scholarship level.
Warrington they're probably now turning the corner to a place where for a long time, Cookie, they bought big names, went after superstars and paid over the odds and perhaps didn't quite get those players being all in as they probably should have been. Yeah. You know, you look at what's coming through now there, and if you're a fan of the Wolves, there's time to get excited about this next crop of kids that are coming through, because there's some real quality in there.
Yeah, there is, and their academy are doing really well as well. So the next 5-6 years are really promising. And Ewan Irwin, I mean, he's just slotted straight into Super League. Like,
I love watching him already, mate. You know, he's quality cookie as a half.
As a half, yeah, absolutely. I've not seen a young English half, and I agree with Sam as well on this. I spoke with Sam, or I listened to him after the game on Saturday night at Huddersfield. I was at the game live. He's really reluctant to put too much onto him because he's still a young kid, but you can't help but be excited by a young kid who catches the ball in two hands, carries it in two hands, can kick, run, pass, find a pass, you know, open up a defence. You can't, you know, squares up and,
there's nice
and digs
detail
into the
line.
line. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've not seen that from a young player for so many years. I mean, I can't remember the last one off the top of my head, but you know, I came through a system, and you know, me and Richard on 16 and 17 and 18, making first grade debuts. I can't remember ever being as good as that. No, and I'm telling you, he's a special talent that we've got in our game, and Wolves fans should be excited by him. The way he plays is beyond his years.
How was that 80 minutes, Paul?
Well, I scratched my eyes out for the last 40.
Look, I didn't see the game, but I heard it was an absolute shocker.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah, Dave Woods on the broadcasting channel made what was a really wet weekend bank holiday sound really good. He did a really good job. It was difficult, but you know, the first half for Warrington was clinical. So you know, if you're asking what Sam wanted from the game, no HIAs. He had one that passed it. Look, I think Thompson passed it. He won the game comfortably. It was over at half time. Second half was rubbish. You can draw a line under it, and he can move on to what is a big Challenge Cup semi-final this weekend. So Sam got what he needed out of the game, there's no question. Probably wanted a better second half, but he doesn't have to review the second half, with all due respect. He moves on to Ulcar and moves on quickly.
One of those games, as it was once famously said by, I can't remember who, if it was in my back garden, I'd shut the curtain.
Yeah.
Was it one of them? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just to jump the gun a little bit, just while we're on that game, I think that is one of the biggest problems at Huddersfield. I was looking through their top 17, and only 3 are academy players. Now, that's not saying their academy system isn't bringing through stars. You know, Dom Young's killing it over in the NRL and has been England international. But I just feel like there are some players at Huddersfield, and there's a I don't know if there's sort of a lack of a community feel, or you know, there's talks of the crowds. We've talked about the crowds a lot on this show. No, I went to an open training session a couple of weeks ago, and it just felt like it was nice. There was a lot of, it was during school holidays. There was a lot of kids there. There was a nice feel about it. But then you get to a game day, and I think you've said it before, it just felt a little bit soulless, doesn't it, in that ground? I know the ground's too big, but I just think at 17 as well, we're going to have something to cheer about because there's 10 academy players, you know, the supporters. Whereas at Huddersfield, they only have 3 academy players in there.
There's a number of Huddersfield players that play away from there. So Jake Wardle, for example, came through that system, didn't he? The senior brothers came through that system.
Did the King brothers come through?
Yeah, no, I don't think they came through at Huddersfield. I'm not sure. Maybe.
Possibly. Toby King was there, yeah.
Warrington? No, I think they went there. George is there now and Toby's been there.
Yeah, I think they're from, I'm sure they're
maybe
from Huddersfield.
There's a number of players that do come through that system. But ironically, Jake Connor's another one. He came through there, the reigning man of steel.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there were some class players. If they managed to keep those players.
But they move on. Is that because of the stadium? Because but I can remember them winning the League Leaders Shield with Danny Brough at the helm. 2013. Yeah, and there was still the amount of people in the stadium that are in there today. It's difficult when you're asking players to go play for a club where there's not much of an away following, there's not much of a home following. The stadium's too big and it's pretty soulless. And that's no disrespect, because Ken Davey, puts his money into his pockets. He's got really long arms and short pockets when you consider the amount of money he spends. So. It's a real difficult one. I think that they've just announced another game's going to the Dewsbury Stadium against Toulouse this week. The best game they had last year, in my opinion, was Wigan at the Flair Stadium at Dewsbury, where it was enclosed and there was an atmosphere. And I think that can be made difficult for away teams, whereas it's really comfortable at the stadium they're in now.
It did on that day, Cook. It took, I think it was Jack Farriman, right on the hooter. So, I was on the game that day. They created an atmosphere, and it felt like you were I mean, barring the optics of looking around, no disrespect to Dewsbury, but it's not, it's not the best ground, is it? But the atmosphere created felt like it was a Super League game, right? But yeah, look, there's clubs that produce players. We spoke about it before with some guests. I think when we talked to Matt Ellis last year, his challenge was he didn't want to become a club that sells players. He wants to be ones that retain. And if you retain them, you end up like your Wigan, St Helens, Leeds Rhinos. Those academy systems, in the end, you can build and have dynasties off the back of them, can't you? So, talking about St Helens, a return for Jack Welsby off the bench. He came off the bench and ended up playing a bit of halfback, a try-scoring return for him. The big talk and the big question in the town is, where does everybody fit in once again?
That is the big question, and it's a headache that only Paul Rowley has in Super League because
a nice headache.
Yeah, well, a nice headache because most coaches are going, I can't put out a fit 17, whereas he's now got two players fighting for the fullback role. Tristan Saylor's been in red hot form. And he will probably be in the Man of Steel talks when the panel talk about it, after 10 rounds. So Jack Welsby came on, Johnny Lomax went to 9, and while we're on St Helens, I know we'll talk about it in a minute, the 1 week loan system, Bill Leyland comes in and they rest Darryl Clark. That doesn't quite sit right with me.
You've jumped ahead on me there, Josh.
But just on Jack Welsby, I suppose at the start of the season, he started with Tristan Saylor in the halves, Jack Welsby at fullback, and they play a system with two sort of fullbacks. Now, if that's the way they trained in pre-season and that's the way he saw it in round 1, then I suppose that might be the way he goes back to it.
Cookie, was the right call leaving Saylor at fullback? I think it was.
I think so. It's interesting this because I think Paul Rowley can think outside the box a little bit with this. I think he can play either Welsby at 1-6 or vice versa with Saylor, but you can play with, in effect, 3 halfbacks roaming, or you can play Jackson Hastings on the ball with both Welsby and Saylor outside of him, or one sits on a short side. There's a number of ways that St Helens can attack. As a coach, if I put my coach's hat on, I think, how would I get all 3 into the team and make sure that they're all on the ball at certain times when I want them on the ball?
Cookie,
so it's interesting.
I've seen him at 13 in the past, though.
Yeah,
he's played at 13 before. Now I know
you've got Joe Shorrocks, who adds that element of you can tap both sides, because if you have Jackson Hastings one side or Joe Shorrocks, so Joe Shorrocks probably adds that. I don't know if you would drop Joe Shorrocks from that 13, but Welsby came back last year and played at that 13, didn't he?
I think
it would depend on who you're playing. If you want to go big against a team, you can leave Shorrocks off the bench, can't you, and put in a really big player. So for argument's sake, if Parsi comes back, you put Parsi at 13 and play with Walmsley and Lees and Parsi and go direct, and then you play with 3 halfbacks in essence, with Welsby, Saylor and Hastings. Hastings on the ball with them 2 floating on the back of edge defence. So it's really exciting for me as a Saints. If you're a Saints fan, because I do believe Paul Rowley thinks outside the box a little bit, and it salivates me a little bit, because I think, what would I do here? Because you've got so many great players that you can put in the team, but you can play in so many different ways, and it makes them difficult to play against, because you can play with Shorrocks as a ball player, then you've got 4 ball players on there. Now you try and defend all of that, Kyle, as a defender. You don't know what's coming, and you certainly don't know what's coming from Paul Rowley's teams anyway.
No, you don't. They are flying at the moment, aren't they? I think are they joined top? Are they joined top with Leeds?
They're up there, yeah.
So, look,
with Leeds,
they've got a lot in their arsenal, haven't they, at the moment? And how you unpick and unpack that? Well, that's Paul Rowley's job to do, and we can just sit here and
marvel at how good it is when it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. The loan system. You mentioned it, Josh. There, obviously, Bill Leyland came in on a week loan. Of course, they've got the big, huge semi-final against Wigan. Darryl Clark, an ageing player, a high-quality player, a chance to rest him and bring in Bill Leyland. I don't like it. I think it stinks in terms of. Look, they haven't broke any rules, Cookie. I know you'll come at me with that, but I just don't think it's a great look for the whole competition. Particularly what's at stake next week. If we're going to go on I'm saying a fair playing field, but they haven't done anything wrong. I understand that. But we've all been around the game long enough to know that what they've done is play the blinder there.
It's bent the rules to the point of it not breaking, isn't it? I'll let you carry on from that, but that's how I feel. It's bending the rules to the point of breaking, but not breaking.
Well, as a journalist then, where do you
For me, I said it on the day. It was off for me. You've got Darryl Clark now. I don't know if he was ever present, but he's playing a lot of minutes and he's playing well. But to have the opportunity to rest him, I'd like to think what Wigan think on that. But
did he? Sorry, was it? Did he say he was injured or was it just rested? Like
I'm pretty sure post match he just said he was rested.
Or something,
yeah,
right.
just rested.
Because if he genuinely has, then fine, fair enough, right? Do you know what I mean? But
most players play with knocks, though, don't they? Let's be honest. Every week, you're going through your season. There's not a time where you don't have a knock.
I think we know, and everybody listening knows exactly what they've done here.
Well, listen, if he'd just come out and said he was injured, we'd have all said, "You're kidding. He's rested." Right. But the fact he's come out and been honest, we're talking about it even more.
That's what we do, though, isn't it?
Of course, we unpick it. Listen. If you want to make rules, put them in place. The reason they brought in the 1 week loan system for me this year is because they brought in 2 extra teams and people kept saying the pool of players isn't quality enough. We're finding with the newly promoted teams with injuries that they're struggling to win games. Toulouse won the first one in 8 at the weekend against Hull. York are off the back of 5 or 6 straight losses. Bradford are off the back of 5 or 6 straight losses. They're the squads that have come up. The 1 week loan system is designed to help teams when they've got an injury crisis, isn't it? It's as simple as that. Because the loan system before that was 2 weeks minimum. Clubs are reluctant to let players go for 2 weeks because a week's a long time in rugby league and you could pick up 3 or 4 injuries and a suspension and all of a sudden you need that player back and you can't bring him back. So that was brought in for that reason. The pool of players and the fact that clubs don't let players go for more than a week at a time.
It's no different to what York and Newcastle have been doing all season, though, is it?
Well, which is one club, basically, isn't it?
But York don't have that academy system in place. St Helens have an academy system. Are you telling me there's not one player there that's playing for the reserves?
He makes a great point. I mean, if you're one of them young kids next off the rank, you'd be fuming, wouldn't you?
You can't promote from within one.
But then you put an academy kid in and he gets torn apart. He's not ready. You've got to protect your academy kids. Bill Leyland, with all due respect, the only reason he's not playing at Hull KR is because the best player in the competition right now, in my opinion, is the 9 at Hull KR, Jez Litton. So, it's really, if rules are put in place, then clubs will bend them. With all due respect, rules get put in place in terms of rules on the field, and clubs bend them. Players staying down for injuries when there's a green card, or trying to gain a penalty. People try and bend the rules. Players and clubs try and bend the rules. And they do bend them to snapping point, but don't snap them. So I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying I can understand why Paul Rowley's doing it. And I can see us from a coach's point of view that if I can rest Darryl Clark before a semi-final where he cannot play Bill Leyland, then take the opportunity to do it. That's simple.
And the bigger picture, when it gets to the fight for the League Leaders Shield, now, Bill Leyland or not, I think Saints would have won that game. But if Bill Leyland scored, let's say Saints win the League Leadership over Hull KR by a try or by 2 points, and Bill Leyland's played a part in that, then when you're Hull KR, you're going, maybe we shouldn't have done that in round 10. I think there's a bigger picture it.
Or maybe they should have beaten York on the opening day.
Right. You could look at yourself first.
You look internal before any of that. Bill Leyland needs game time, and it helps on their salary cap because every week he's out, it comes off their salary cap. So they're spinning so many plates. Clubs are spinning so many plates. If you can get Leeds have just sent 4 players out on loan, I think last week, and tried to send another Australian out who they couldn't get a game time to. So
Ethan O'Neill, wasn't it?
Ethan
O'Neill.
I
think it was 7 players in Ethan O'Neill.
So you understand. So Brad Arthur's balancing his salary cap books as well.
Listen, again, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. It's something that we spoke about briefly earlier on. What happens if we get to a stage where, let's say, for example, Wigan or Hull KR, they finish top and they've got a preferred opponent that they'd like to play after the respective semi-finals? Could they enhance their squad by just loaning them players for that week? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not a great look, is it? Like, you could, if they wanted to, let's use Wigan for example. Could they loan a Bevan French, Jay Field, Jake Wardle? Could they loan them to a team that they would rather not play in a semi-final?
Yeah, but
I know it sounds ridiculous.
The picture of that, I know you've talked about before. Now the picture of that is that you're loaning players out, aren't you? Whereas we're talking about the St Helens one loaning one in. Look, and the whole picture of it, it was just off for me. I didn't see it right. And
I don't like the week-long loan. I just don't like it.
Yeah, that's it. But it's not on St Helens. It's on that 1 week loan system, I think.
It's certainly what it does do as well, though, Kyle. The pros for it are that it helps championship clubs as well. because the Championship's in dire straits at the minute with a number of clubs going under or close to going under. You know, there's rumours with Oldham now. There's 2 consortiums taking over after Bill Quinn leaves this week. Featherstone have gone, Salford went, North Wales are cancelling games. So that helped. The 1 week loan system helps them to get players in if they're struggling for a team.
But we're at a point now where we're loaning from the Championship. Greg Eden's gone to Bradford because of the player pool.
So exactly. So that in that respect, it's helping the game, isn't it? Okay. Because it's allowing Bradford to field the team. I say that with all due respect to Bradford as well, because they've got Conor Wynn not playing, who's a friend of mine, and I'm not saying he should be playing. I think he's done some things wrong that he's got to work on in his game. But Greg Eden's come in from the Championship and took his place, but they've still got a squad player there that could play. They just don't want to play him because they don't see him as the solution right now, and Greg's a better option. So it helps clubs in that way. But I do understand what you're saying in terms of, I certainly won't be loaning out a Bevan French or
I know that,
Field, because if they snap a leg, Kyle, then they're not playing the week after or for the rest of the season anyway.
Look, I totally get that. I'm just sort of saying, look, this is exactly what, you know, it could create that. I'm not saying it's going to, but a 1 week loan allows you to manipulate and help you. I'm just not a big fan of it. Look, all of this leans very greatly into Martin Jepson's point last week. If you haven't seen it, guys, make sure you go back and give it a watch when he spoke about the player pools just not being good enough, and he would like to see a club buddy up with a Super League club. As you know, if the NRL takeover was to come in, he'd like to see more of what York and Newcastle have got going on.
Well, be very careful what you wish for, because Wakefield at the minute are better than Castleford, and Castleford could become a feeder club to Wakefield. So be careful what you wish for with that. If I'm saying that,
he doesn't mind a bit of controversy there, does he?
Because you're talking about player pools and buddying up. And with all due respect, I was part of a club last year in Featherstone who've got a steeped in a rich history. Yeah. So you're taking away Featherstone's history to help them. So they buddy up with Castleford, the closest club to. They buddy up with Castleford and become a feeder club and can never get in Super League. Tell to somebody from Featherstone that. Do you tell somebody from Featherstone that they've got no chance of going in Super League, when if they get an owner that comes in like Martin Jepson, like Wakefield got Matt Ellis, they could make Super League. They could go up and stay up. You know, it's all about the owner, isn't it? Just because Martin's in there now, if he leaves, Cass become a feeder club to Wakefield. Yeah, it's easy to say and make them outlandish statements. I put my shoe on the other foot as a Championship club.
I'm in a difficult position with the Championship because I don't think there's any wrong in some clubs just staying semi-professional and being like, look, this is the level we're always going to be at, we're always going to be here, and we're fine with that. We're fine with the crowds we're getting in, we're fine with the budget we're spending. We don't want to overspend. There's too much overspending in the Championship, isn't there? Which has brought in talks of a salary cap. And then on the other side, you're having teams that want to be in Super League, that are spending all that money. Some are overspending. I just think there's too much of a difference in the Championship. I'm not quite sure where I stand in that division at the minute.
Who's buddying up with London? When they go up? Because there's no question they're going up, Kyle. The IMG rules have been tweaked again. Whether Huddersfield stay in, it becomes a 15-team competition, which I do believe will happen. And there'll be a bye round next year. Who buddies up with London? And who buddies up with every other club? If you're going to tell Championship clubs that do have ambition to go into Super League, I know Doncaster have got that ambition, having spoken to their CEO. Now, if you tell Doncaster they've got to buddy up with a Wakefield and become a feeder club, you know, then does their club just die completely? Does their supporters stop going? Because all they are is a feeder club to another team. So this feeder club system's really difficult for me to get my head around, because there's so many clubs that are steeped in history. Halifax, another one. You know, these have been Challenge Cup winners in our lifetimes. You know, so you know, I'd live to say that.
I hear your point, but the other side of it is, if we just carry on doing what we're doing, we're going to see more and more of them Championship clubs go under, because it's just not sustainable. What's happening? You're seeing more and more of it, and I've no doubt that there'll be other names that get thrown in before this season or next season's out for sure. They just, you know, it's not rocket science, is it? If you're spending X and you're only bringing in Y, then you're gonna be in trouble at some stage. You know. Anyhow, but we'll. No doubt we'll revisit. We'll revisit that in due course.
It's a really interesting one. It's a big discussion that you can have a full show on or two full shows on, Carl, because it is such a difficult situation for everybody to be in the game. And the biggest one is the player pool. We keep talking, the words player pool come up almost every show, because there's not enough quality players to sustain 14 teams is what we're looking at now, and there's been blowout scores.
Well, we're starting to see more and more of them, them blowout scores now, really, aren't we? aren't we? As the runners and riders now start to take the positions in the Betfred Super League table. But leaving the Super League now and looking ahead to the semi-finals, what a game that one's going to be on Sunday. Warrington against Hull KR, a repeat of the final. Just gone.
A repeat of last year.
Redemption, revenge. What do you reckon?
Both, all of it, everything involved with it. There are two exciting ties with that, as I sit here now, are hard to predict, which is everything you want in a Challenge Cup semi-final. You don't want to know what the outcome is going to be. Hull KR are in red-hot form, Warrington Wolves are in red-hot form. You just don't know which way that one's going to go. I think there'll be a big crowd at Doncaster. I think there's a few tickets left, which hopefully sells out, as the week progresses. But it's just going to be a really good match, and I genuinely don't know which way it's going to go.
Well, the last time that they played in the Super League in a knockout game, of course, it was Joe Burgess' Pinocchio moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The two very, very good teams, evenly matched. George Williams misses a big one, isn't it? And I'm not sure whether George will play for the rest of the year with such a serious neck injury, which could tell and be the difference. Hull KR in great form. I wouldn't like to call it. I wouldn't. I think it's going to be a cracking game. I hope it sells out. I'm sure it will. Trying to call it's difficult. Two very, very good teams.
Well, hold that thought, because we will get, of course, our prediction show, which will be all about the two semi-final games. So make sure you tune into that on Thursday. And while you're doing it, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything from All Out Rugby League. Josh.
I was just going to go more into that but if we can leave it till Thursday's show if you want. I was just thinking, if you compare the 1 to 13, you say Jez Litton's the best player or the best 9 in.
Danny Walker's, he'll have something to say, won't he?
It's against Danny Walker, who for me is up there in the Man of Steel nominations. So just if you look across the park, and I'm sure we'll go into more depth with it, that 1 to 13, 1 to 17.
We absolutely will as well. And just another one that we'll sort of tease up and we'll discuss later on as well. The England's left wing spot's still up for grabs. Well, there's 4 candidates out there this weekend, isn't there, in this game alone?
Yeah, absolutely. All the wingers on show at both clubs are fantastic players. Yeah. Davis, Burgess, Ashton's been brilliant since coming back from his ACL. Yeah. The flip between the Opoati last week and Josh Smith in the wing and centre spot on the right hand side. So some very, very good players on show. Some very, very good wingers on show. So the big one for me, the May-Sneed matchup's a big one.
Yeah.
Tyrone May's in great form. Mark Sneed, we know what he can do. He's a 3-time Lance Todd Trophy winner, and was the Lance Todd Trophy winner in the final last year. He loves these moments, doesn't he? Absolutely. If you're going to get a player who's going to dominate a big game on TV with everybody watching, then Mark Sneed's your man, isn't he?
Yeah.
I paused for a second there because it's so great that we're having so many wingers. But my going back to Wellesby, if Wellesby plays the season in the halves, you get to the end of the year, AJ Brimson's playing in the centres at the Titans or in the halves as well. You're going to go into a World Cup without any player having played fullback all year. Now, I know you don't lose that skill, it's not something, but we saw it last year. Wellesby was out most of the year, comes back, he plays a bit of everywhere, and he's out of form. When we get to the World Cup and Brian Mack's putting his team together, you're going to have a fullback battle there with 2 players or 3 players that aren't playing fullback.
Well, if you're Brian Mack, you put AJ Brimson to fullback when you're at Gold Coast on the staff.
Well, yeah.
Towards the end of the year.
He can't control where Jack Wellesby plays.
But he can control where AJ Brimson.
You would think
he can have an influence.
You'd think he would, wouldn't you?
But that's an interesting point.
I
really
do.
Interesting point.
But look, the Titans or St Helens or whoever, they're not interested in England at the end of the season, are they? No. So, but I do get your point. Look, we've now got a top 5, haven't we, really? A big 5 or whatever you want to call it. It's great that 4 of them are going to feature in these two. So it's how it should be, right? Shouldn't it? It should be the 4 best teams in the competition going at it. Now, I know it's a separate competition and there's the magic of the cup, and it's brilliant when you see a random team in there and get to Wembley. I understand that. But from a purist perspective of you want to see 2 high-quality games, well, these serve you up that in an absolute platter, don't they?
Yeah, you want to see the game's biggest stars, the biggest names on the biggest stages, don't you? And the semi-finals, it only gets one bigger than that, and that's the final. So yeah, and as we say, there's just superstars across all 4 squads now. Wigan broke their losing streak of 4 in Super League. this week is a big test for them against St Helens to say, "No, look, we're still competitive. We're still the contenders. I know we've had a little bit of an off spell, but we're still up there. So it's going to be a big mark for them."
Josh, we talked about obviously these clubs and all four of them have a great fan base, don't they? Are we close to selling these games out? Do we know yet?
Yeah, I believe Saturday is close to a sellout.
It is.
Yeah,
Well,
I believe
that's good
Saturday's
to hear,
close, and that was one of the reasons why they picked the Halliwell Jones Stadium,
Right.
obviously location-wise. But the bosses believed that they could sell it out and have a really good semi-final classic. And all roads are leading to a good crowd, if not a sellout at Doncaster. So that's good for the sport, good for the cameras with both games being televised.
Oh, fantastic, guys! If you haven't got your ticket, make sure you head over to the Rugby League commercial website. I'm sure it will be. Get your tickets there. Make sure you put bums on seats and enjoy 2 high quality games with the prize at Wembley Stadium. Of course, you can get tickets as well for the Challenge Cup final via the Rugby League commercial website. It promises to be, whoever gets through, it promises to be an absolute humdinger of a 2 semi-finals first of all, and then the final itself will be a cracker. We will tell you or unpick and unpack who we think is going to get to Wembley come the end of May. But for now, let's just finish on Brian McDermott. So as you mentioned the World Cup, Josh, we'll finish on that briefly. Brian McDermott has spoken about heritage players. And when he was asked upon it, he said, it's not for us to debate whether we're happy or not. Who are we to say that that's not the right thing?
Yeah, okay. And there's plenty of, I think more have come out since his appointment, putting their hand up saying they want to play for England. Now, Jackson Hastings made no secret that he wants to play for England. Previously represented Great Britain. He probably had more
Killing
of a chance.
It again, though.
Yep, I think he's got the most assists in Super League as things stand. So, yeah, he's in good form. So, I think, was it Billy Smith, centre in the NRL, Sydney Roosters, he put his hand up last year. There's been another player since. AJ Brimson became the latest last year, so he's probably right in who he'd say. And I know when he spoke to media a couple of weeks ago, everyone came out pretty impressed by it. And I watched the interview that he did on the England socials, and I came out of it, or I watched it, and I thought, it was pretty powerful stuff. And he sounds like a man that will know how to win the World Cup. He's got system in place. Yeah. So, a bit of belief there for England after months and months of having no plans for such a big occasion at the end of the year. Yeah,
Cookie. He talks about if clearly you're from England and your parents are from England, or you're proud to play for England, then you should be able to get in there. If you're eligible, then it doesn't matter where you're from, you're in.
Well, if there's one man that you would be inspired by in terms of being the England coach, being from where Brian's from, and what he's done in his life pre-professional rugby league, talking about him being in the services, then he's perfect to say who can and cannot be part of it. You've got people that are from the South Sea Islands in Fiji and other places that are part of the British Armed Forces. Why are they part of that? Because the British. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. If somebody is British or British heritage, I agree with Brian. Who are you to tell them that they can't represent their father, mother, grandfather, grandmother? If they're eligible, then they're eligible. I think sitting down with them players and speaking to them one-on-one and getting to know what they're about and why they want to represent England, that's first and foremost for Brian. Now, if you get the inkling of doing it for the wrong reasons, which is because it's a World Cup in 6 weeks and I get to spend some time in camp with another team, then you don't pick them. But if they're there for the right reasons and they want to represent the heritage and the mum, dad, grandma, grandfather, then if that's the case and you get that from them, that vibe from them, then pick them. Because ultimately, the Australians and New Zealanders pick Australians and New Zealanders who want to represent. I think it's Caleb Ponga who's just represented Australia for so long, who's now going to represent New Zealand. Is that because he can't get in the Australian squad because of Reece Walsh? Possibly. But he's going to deflect to New Zealand and could possibly play for New Zealand in the World Cup. You've got players that have gone from New Zealand to Tonga and Samoa that are now representing their heritage. No coincidence that Tonga are becoming a hell of a nation in rugby league. So I'm all for what Brian's done and said. And I believe sitting down one-on-one with players and getting to the root of why they want to represent England is most important.
Well, slightly away from that, Herbie Farnworth, of course, put his hand up for State of Origin.
Well, that's another debate over there, isn't it? Because what they're saying is, if you're a part of a tier 1 nation, you can't play state of origin unless you become Australian, basically. They offered it to Sam Burgess, I believe, and Sam turned it down. Adrian Morley possibly could have done, wouldn't do it, because they're born and bred English. Now, if an English player becomes a rule in the NRL and with state of origin that a tier 1 nation player can represent either New South Wales and Queensland, because you want to see the best players. And with all due respect, Herbie Farnworth is the best centre in the game right now in the world of rugby league. So why wouldn't you, as a state of origin fan, want to see him play for your state if he can represent your state through the rules? Again, we're changing and bending rules, but if you can do it, you play.
Who are we to say that, Herbie Farnworth isn't equally proud to be English as he has, growing up in Australia? I think he went over as a youngster. That's been his life.
13, 14, wasn't he? Something like that.
Who are we to say that he's not proud of both sides there? So you should have every right to represent both.
With all, could he deflect to Australia now? Possibly. Again, you're talking about something that could happen.
We hope
and if
not.
the rules change, we certainly hope not.
As a player,
we certainly hope not. But if there's 2 centres that come through and Herbie can't get in front of them, does he do what Caleb Pong has done and deflect to play for another nation?
Well, it's the world of rugby league, isn't it? The gift that keeps on giving. So, look, guys, that's us wrapped up for this week. Thanks very much for everyone who's tuned in. Listen, we say every week about the comments, fire them away. Our team love to pick and digest through them and give us feedback. It really does mean the world to us. So don't forget as well to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. In the comments section to the left, there's that hype button. You can hit that up to 3 times a week and we can keep on growing shows just like this as we move forward the rest of the 2026 season. Super League takes a break. Enjoy your Challenge Cup semi-final, wherever you're watching. Take care. Bye-bye for now.